From EPAWA Weather Consulting, headquartered in Worth Whitehall, Pennsylvania, this is Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are those of the forecaster alone and may not reflect those of the staff of EPAWA Weather Consulting LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Now, without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
Good Sunday morning to another edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, January 9th. We have a lot to go through in this video before I get into the longer term stuff, which is what a lot of people are excited about, and for good reason. But we have a short-term freezing rain threat across the region this morning as I just hit play on this so it goes forward. You can see it's going to start winding down over the next couple of hours. So you have an ice threat that's going to last over the next couple of hours here through about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then it becomes a rain threat for areas farther south and east. So it was heavier this morning. So the National Weather Service State College got a little bit freaked out when they saw the radar at 6 o'clock in the morning and issued ice storm warnings here in central PA. Well, that probably wasn't necessary, at least not with the wording that up to a half inch of ice could accrue. That is not happening. So, you know, we did bump this area up here in the purple, this purple area. We did bump that up to between a 0.15 and 0.3. Now, I want to stress that the 0.3 is going to be very isolated, peaks, mountaintops, that kind of thing. Not where a lot of people live. Most of you in this area will see between 0.15, 0.12, maybe some 0.15 stuff when you get right in the dead center of this over parts of Union and Snyder counties, maybe eastern Center County. Okay, so it's not it's a lot of ice is bad whether you have 0.01 or 0.5. Once you get above 0.25, then it starts weighting down the trees a little bit. Okay, so that could cause some power outages if you get to that, but there's not enough of an area that's going to be over that. As a matter of fact, the total liquid that fell in this area in a lot of places was about 0.3, but the problem is not all of that accrues. Some of it, it hits the branches. Some of it sticks. Some of it falls off and falls the grass below. Some of it lands on the roadways, and some goes in the gutter. So it's not everything that falls is not accruing to everything sticking out there. Second point I want to make is the southeastern part of this right here. So a lot of these people are reporting, well, it's 33 degrees and it's not doing anything. Particularly in these areas, 32. And they're in the 33, 34 degree range right now. Don't take that for granted. I know water freezes at 32 degrees. I get that. But the problem is that's the air temperature above the ground, okay? Right above the ground where you're measuring that on your home station. And some of these reporting stations here. If you are below 34, it can still freeze. And why? Because last night it was in the teens. So the ground doesn't warm up as quickly as the air above it. So you can still have some freezing going on at 33, 34 degrees. So do not take that for granted just because your home system says that it should be just plain rain. Okay, so we kept that this area down here up for that reason. Okay, but there's our map right there. And again, this area is 0.15 to 0.3, but the 0.25 to 0.3 is going to be very, very isolated and higher peaks. Most of you are under a quarter inch. So let's go over to the long range table, because that's what we really do the Weather Weeklies for, is a long range, and what many of you are going to be here for because you have heard some things about once we get beyond the mid-month period. I've gotten a lot of questions about this, and I can always tell when somebody doesn't read my outlooks, the long range outlooks. So the long range outlook this week was seen by 165,000 people. Okay, Weather Weeklies, I can see the statistics on that, the people that watch these videos, which is a recap of what happened on Friday, and then maybe any changes that happened since then. But I do the long range publicly every single week, every Friday. And I can always tell when somebody doesn't read it because they come to me and say, hey, what do you think about this period? Well, I already have that here. This has been here. So this long range period that I'm speaking about, after the 15th, there's two signals here. One here, and there's one here. Okay, so those are two winter storm signals. They're listed separately, and I did not group the 15th to the 19th all the way up to the 22nd as one because I feel there are multiple threats in that window. Okay, so I put them separately. The 15th to 19th is the first one. That was carried over from the previous week, so that's already been there. All right, nobody should be surprised. If you watch these long range, the Weather Weeklies videos, or read the long range outlooks, if you don't like, looking at, you don't like watching videos, That's fine. But it's been here. All right. So, I get some people just don't like, don't like doing either, but I'm not going to sit here. I'm just going to link you to the stuff that's already been there in the first place when you reach out to me on Twitter or whatever. It's been there. So we like these signals. I'll cover that here in this video. And the temperatures are expected to be below average this month, -2 to -4 across the region. I know it started off warm the first couple of days. That's really not going to do enough to skew the whole rest of the month, because the majority of the rest of the month is going to be below average, and in some cases, on a few days, very well below average. But then February, we're back to kind of like near to slightly below average, and then still slightly above average snowfall for the next 2 months. Here's what average is. Oh, let me go to change this over again. Here's what average is across our region. Okay, so we have this. This is what over our 6 climate sites, major climate sites across the region. So we have Philadelphia, Allentown, Harrisburg, Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, Newark, and Atlantic City. By the way, Atlantic City, you've already reached seasonal snowfall, normal seasonal snowfall after this week. It's been a crazy week for you, for areas south, not just there, but all the way over places in Delaware that you don't normally see that. Certainly not in a week, but I mean, usually have that over an entire season as an average, but you got your seasonal average in some spots in South Jersey and parts of Delaware. So this is what is expected over the next 2 months here, and in the left column and the right column is January and February. So you can see where you are. If you're in between one of these areas, just pick the closest station to you to get a general idea of what is expected and what is normal. Okay, so we are expecting slightly above average in both months, and this month might actually be a little bit more than slightly above average if things work out the way we see it. Okay, each week we go through the current sea surface temperatures in the equatorial eastern Pacific, and this is a measure of that. This is a La Nina. It's an east-based La Nina. And the western sides have been slowly increasing. I think this is temporary, though, with this falling in the eastern side here. I think it's going to be still more basin-wide, and that's because this graphic is produced last Monday, and I can see where it has trended in the last 7 days. So these are going to come up next week, these eastern areas. So don't get thinking this is going to be all of a sudden turning into an east-based La Nina. It's not. Here's what it looks like. A basin-wide event here. It is leaning east, of course, but it's it's going to start balancing out here and then slowly start to rise. So you get those temporary jumps here every once in a while where it'll go up and down, but the whole overall trend is going to be to warm this up and head it toward neutral as we head toward the end of winter. Okay, so there's your sea surface temperatures right now, and the area we're worried about is right in here. And people always tell me they're not seeing what I'm doing. These are the El Nino regions. Okay, so you can see it's weighted on the eastern side of this. Okay, it's kind of weighted over here, less so here, but you still have a basin-wide event going on right now. Okay, and here's what we look like in our analog year 2017, 2018. Very similar. It was weighted east. See that? It's still basin-wide, but it's weighted east. This is on January 8th, 2018. It's very similar to what we're seeing right now. Very similar. So no reason to change the analog. I think we're still good there. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. I wanted to get into the changes in the North Pacific. Now, we talked about this ad nauseum before we had the pattern change. The pattern did change. Now we are looking at what's going to go on from this point. And the big change was to change the ridging here in the western, or the trough in the western United States, and turn it into a ridge, and that has happened. There's some indications here. This is what we're looking at right now, kind of these ripple effects here, these different velocity waves. And then you get, with time, as we get past mid-month, look what happens here with this. The PNA just really increases, and you get a big ridge in the western United States that's going to help for a trough downstream. Okay, and so this is what your upper air pattern looks like on the 21st of January. Huge ridge, deep trough. This is a snowstorm signal right here. Classic snowstorm signal. This is a phase 8 signal. Phase 8 of the Madden-Julian Oscillation looks like this. That's exactly what it's doing. Ridge, trough, and you get a little bit of blocking in northern Greenland. So this is a storm signal right here. Storm signal period. There's been a lot of question of whether or not we're going to make it to phase 8. The indications are that we will be in phase 8 for a while. Now, I can only use I'm using the Australian guidance here for the MJO just because it's been most consistent taking this in here. And we had a little problem with NOAA's servers this week where it wasn't populating some of the items, and still hasn't, but at least as of last night when I had this image put in here. But we did go back into phase 7 temporarily. We're heading back into phase 8, and it takes a little bit of a lag time for that to get here, which is about generally a week or so, week to 10 days sometimes. But this is exactly what's going to be happening a week to 10 days from now. This is what's looking like. You get a big trough in the east and a big ridge in the western United States, and the upper air pattern looks like that. Okay, and that is a winter storm signal. When you have something looking like this is a big potential threat to the eastern United States. So I don't want to jump the gun on amounts yet, or potential amounts, or that kind of thing, but there is certainly multiple chances if this is looking like this next week. Okay, and all indications are that it should be on multiple guidance, but the things can change. I get it. This is an ensemble meet I'm using here, not an operational run. The ensembles have a little bit better of an idea than the operational one, because you're using 50 blended members instead of just using one individual run and hoping it's correct. Okay. So, in terms of temperatures, this is what the temperatures do. Now we get this cold shot here early this week here. And once we get to Thursday, Friday, we get a couple days that are kind of near 40 or whatever, and then you get cold coming in here after that. And then it remains cold, and you just keep getting these shots of cold. And look at this. By the time you get to the end of this period, the entire country is colder than average. The entire country. Look at that. Finally, winter has arrived for even, it's just love for all, I guess. Now, the one area down here in Texas, New Mexico, Arizona might not be quite as cold relative to average, but we're going to get some cold shots here. And I think when you get past this stormy period, which I think is going to be about a week, it's going to go from about the 15th to the 22nd. You might have some beyond that too, but I want to limit that period right now, because that's our highlight period. Okay. After that, you're going to get some really cold temperatures coming in once we get toward the end of the month here. And we have this outlined in our outlook too. So you have in this period, we're slightly below average in this period between the 15th and 22nd. And after that, we get slightly below to below. Okay. It's going to be pretty cold. That fourth week of January, it looks like. So after that, we might moderate a little bit, but it's going to be slowly coming out of it. Near average in early February is still good enough to produce snow. Okay. Your snowiest time of year is typically mid-January, mid-February, climatologically speaking. So, if you have near average temperatures in early February, it's still cold enough to snow in a lot of places. So we're not looking at, near average is fine. You don't need to be slightly below average this time of year in order to produce snow. You just don't. And here's, we showed you the temperatures here and how this is transpiring over the next couple of weeks. Again, we're going to have one day or two maybe that are right around the 40-degree mark as we get into Thursday, Friday next week. And after that point, it looks like we're going to have the cold settle in, and it's going to stick around. This is going to be an extended cold period we're talking about. And here's what it looks like graphically using the Euro Ensemble, using our centermost point of our coverage region, which is Lehigh Valley International Airport. It's the centermost point of the regions we cover, of the entire region that we cover. So here's we are for the next 2 days. We got a bottom out day, really cold day here on Tuesday. Monday night through Tuesday. Monday night, Tuesday night are going to be really cold, especially Tuesday night, with most areas in the single digits, at a minimum. So that's going to be pretty cold here. And then we start to crawl out of it a little bit on Wednesday. Okay, and then here's your warm period, I guess you want to call it here, is lower 40s here by the time you get to Thursday, upper 30s on Friday, and then after that you are near freezing or below after that for a long time. Okay, this period here, 22nd beyond, I think you're going to have temperatures that aren't going to get above freezing most of those days. Okay, it looks like it's going to be a pretty cold period there. So as far as the storm signals go, there's a couple here. This is the European model. This is between the 15th and 16th. They got a big storm there, possibly, and there's another one here coming in on the 18th, 19th. I think this is the European model that ran last night. I don't think that second one is that early. The two signals here are probably separated a little bit. You're probably talking about after that point. And the reason why I'm saying that is you look at the ensembles. Here's that first signal it has. That's great, 15th to 16th. Then it has nothing, 18, 19. And then here comes the next one right there, okay? And that's the 20th, 21st. So that falls within our second signal period. I can parade up any amount of different ensembles up here. Canadian ensemble, GFS ensemble. They're all doing the same kind of idea here. And that's because this upper air pattern looks like this. Okay, so this is a very favorable pattern to produce. Is it a guarantee? No, it's not. It is not a guarantee. So this is not me sounding the alarm saying, uh-oh, look out, like some people are. This has a lot of potential. But potential is the key word here. Probability statistics, this is not a deterministic outlook. This is a probabilistic outlook. So we're looking at what could happen based on this setup. And you can look at things in the past when we had a setup like this and what it did. Some of our biggest storms that we've ever had have been in this pattern. Does that mean we're getting a massive blizzard? No, it doesn't. Could you? Possibly. Possible. Okay. That's going to be shorter term projections, but I'm liking that period for at least one, but more likely two threats somewhere between the 15th and 22nd. And we separated those time frames into two different signals for a reason. And I think that you have that credible threat for something to happen there. But regardless, we're going to be cold, and as it is every December, but this is going to be colder than average with the already coldest climatological part of the entire year. So it's going to be pretty cold here going forward, and I have no doubts that January is going to be below average by the time we get to the end of it. The issue here is how long does it last? This might go into, it looks like it goes into at least maybe early February. I don't know. Beyond that point, there might be a little bit of a thaw, so to speak, but only maybe back to normal, near average, which is still good enough to produce snow. A lot of that's going to depend the downstream when we get to the weeks 5 and 6. A lot of that downstream is going to depend on this, the Madden-Julian Oscillation, and where it goes. This goes all the way to the 5th of February, suggesting it moves into phase 1 and phase 2. So if that's the case, you'll start coming out of it right here. But again, there's a lot of speculation about that or where it goes. We just don't know beyond that. That's why I stopped the long range outlooks at a 5 to 6 week lead time, because when you start going beyond that, it's just a guess. With seasonal outlooks, I don't do it. You guys all know that. And there's a reason for that. Okay, so many of you have already signed up for the text alerts with the winter weather events that we've had this week, and we had several. We had 3. Today is being the 3rd. But if you have not done so yet, make sure you get on that. You can go get the winter weather alerts. We're getting toward the second. We're getting into January. You still have a few months here up through the end of March for the winter version of the winter season text alerts. For those that didn't order it yet, you can do that at the My Pocket Meteorologist page, which you can see the address right above me here in the video. Get on the text alerts, get on the premium forum. We'll have advanced discussion in there about all credible storm threats coming at us next weekend and then the following week, which is looking like it's going to be a pretty doozy of a time. But if you haven't done that, go to this address here, or you can just go to our homepage and click next to the daily forecast video. You'll see this image. Click on that. It'll take you right to the winter weather alerts. You want to select the winter options to get the text alerts in the premium form. So to summarize here, La Nina progression will continue to be monitored, building similarities to the 2017-2018 season. Again, I showed you that there's no difference, really, not very minor differences between January 8th, 2018 and today. Okay, there's not really much difference. And we're going to continue to monitor the MJO progression over the next month and a half, basically, and that will determine how long the colder pattern lasts in January. And I ran out of room here, but January and February. I'm really more concerned about February, how long that lasts. But I think there'll be enough opportunities, even after our storm signal periods, for more snow. It's not just like, okay, we hit the 22nd, we're done. We have other opportunities beyond that, too. I just didn't think there was necessary to really include those just yet, but I do think there's more in the pipeline that could happen, late in January, early February, too, okay? So we're watching multiple threats over 2 different winter storm signal periods beyond mid-month, with at least the opportunity or potential for a bigger storm in there, a bigger storm or 2, okay? It could end up being a sheared out progressive wave that doesn't get you very much. It could be nothing at all. But, with that upper air pattern, I think it's a pretty good shot that you have at getting something a little bit more organized, a little bit more juicy and coastal storm type thing. We have the better opportunity or probability for that to occur, but it's not a guarantee just yet. January largely remain below average regardless of any snow. Pattern change is reflected by temperatures, and snow is not a metric to define that. We have changed the pattern. We're just trying to figure out how long this is going to last. And I think through the end of this month, it certainly will have some below average temperatures for the majority of it. And then we just have to look at February, see how long that lasts. I think you start February conducive for snowfall yet, but then after that point, we'll see. It's getting outside of a comfortable range at that point, but there's indications we might return to average or maybe even near to slightly above by the time we get past mid-February, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. That is this edition of Weather Weeklies for Sunday, January 9th. Join us again next week. Hopefully we'll have some, maybe take those signals and turn them into actual storms, and we can discuss that a little bit further at that time. In the meantime, be safe today with the ice and take care.